Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 23rd of 2021, and we are with Rudy's Psychic Meetup. Welcome, Rudy. How are things going for you today?
Thanks. Great. Glad to be here. My son is off in summer camp. We pick him up this weekend, but my day job is keeping me super busy. And I know we're having a little bit of technical problems, so there might be some delay in us speaking, but hopefully the replay has us. Everything will be smooth on that. But sometimes I guess Crowdcast does that, doesn't it?
If you wanted to start to talk about the interesting topics.
Sam, tonight's the topic I wanted to cover. I was thinking about topics this weekend, and Stanley Kubrick came to mind. And he's an interesting American filmmaker. He died of a heart attack back in March of '99, but he's known for some very iconic films like Doctor Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, Eyes Wide Shut. Seven of his last 9 films are actually nominated for Oscars. So most people have heard of him or seen his work, and his work really kind of attracts some interesting theories about, what he was trying to communicate, or if he was trying to communicate more information than we're actually seeing in the movie itself. And so, Sam, I was wondering, just as you watch movies with your family, do you ever sometimes get, like, if you're watching a movie, get an image or kind of a psychic knowing of, like, a director is trying to tell another story with the movie, like, maybe there's something else they're trying to say with their film? Have you ever gotten an impression like that?
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was psychic or not. It had more to do with, how they try to push the ideology onto our kids. Yeah. Some of the ideologies that are circling now that are maybe not so great for society.
Yeah,
and they think that this is a concerted effort. Yeah,
it's interesting with directors. They're
so I don't know if that's what you would be referring to.
Yeah, because sometimes directors will, it's an art form, right? And sometimes there's a subplot, or that they're trying to communicate something else. But the first one of Kubrick's films I want to take a look at is 2001: A Space Odyssey. And not so much the film itself, but some of the theories that surround it, specifically around how it relates to the moon landing of the Apollo missions. So, why the moon landing? Well, there's this theory that's out there that I think there was even a movie, mockumentary, as they call it, put out about this. But the theory that when the United States landed on the moon in the 60s, that this was all faked, and somehow Kubrick was involved in this. And so as you think about this, there's really a couple possibilities, really 3, in my opinion. The moon landing was real, so get over it, you conspiracy nuts. 2, we never went to the moon. It was all fake. We never had the technology, but this was all a bluff in the 60s during the Cold War to kind of fool the Soviets. And the third option is we did go to the moon, but what we found had to be kept secret. This was the Cold War, right? There's a lot of technology we were trying to keep secret. So all the footage of the moon was actually faked, even though the U.S. did go to the moon. And Stanley Kubrick was the one who actually directed the filming of the moon landing footage that we see on TV today. So, Sam, do you see, of these 3 options, or maybe you see a fourth, which of these do you think is the most probable? Did Kubrick create the moon landing footage on a soundstage?
Oh, I knew that a long time ago. And, I was neither yay or nay on the moon landing. I don't have friends in high places. I don't have an ideology at stake. So when the person asked me on the other side, like, what say you? And it was interesting because they confirmed that there was a moon landing, but they also could be there and that there was a cover up. So, like I said before, the reason we have a conspiracy room in the disc room is so that that's an outlet for people to post that stuff that could potentially be true or partially true. Sometimes you can just get misunderstandings, as the information gets passed through. But yeah, I do agree that there was some cover up. It wasn't right where they landed, but when they did some exploring with I guess they had a rover, they did run across moments because it was alien debris, like mechanical stuff that had been left behind. And they were like, oh, it's here. But you know what? They friggin' scooped it up and they brought it back in the capsule. I'm just going to go to the questions, guys. All right. So, Crypto Believer. 20 votes. That's a lot. Hi, Sam and Rudy with McAfee's passing today. I wanted to get the other side's thoughts. Did he die naturally? If he was taken out or committed suicide, did he have dirt on someone powerful that made him a target? There are only 5 questions, and it was timely as he passed today. And isn't it interesting I have an email. I just received it. They sent me the link to this. So isn't that interesting that it was upvoted 20 votes?
And Sam, I was muted, so you might be able to hear me now. I'm sorry.
It was actually my husband who sent that. And I just said, it says here, antivirus software, Spanish jail. And I just replied, I said, oops. And then probably just a heart attack was old. Crazy things about getting older is that kind of stuff, the likelihood of it happening, it increases slightly. Listen, he was living, right to the end. So I don't know how, does anyone know how old he was? I didn't read the article.
70, late 70s, I want to say at least, maybe.
Just because, he acted like a kid, so people forgot how old he was. 75. Okay, because that's what I was thinking was 75.
So then we'll go back to the moon landing. So what I wanted to say, I think before I accidentally muted myself, was that, this thing about having alien technology found on the moon, this is back to our February 17th meetup. We were talking about, and we watched a video of Neil Armstrong, and you noted that it seemed like he was really measuring his words, like he saw something that might have freaked him out on that moonwalk. So it's really interesting that you say that, and the thing where this theory comes in is when you actually look at the footage from the moon landing, and people analyze stills from the 2001 Space Odyssey. There's similar artifacts in the pictures. Like when you adjust the color and resolution, that gives some credence to this theory that Kubrick actually participated in filming. And remember, back in the 60s, they didn't really have the green screen technology we do now. So they had a technique where they called it front screen projection, where you would project onto a glass at a 45-degree angle, and then the actors would be behind, and then the backdrop was this really bright, like 3M light lit, a very bright reflective screen. And that's how they were able to film 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, as I kind of describe that, Sam, do you get anything about the possibility of the filming of the moon landing using similar technology?
No. I think it was all real.
Okay.
They managed to do it.
Okay. Then, one of those theories, the person that promoted this years ago, Jay Widener, some of you may have heard of him. He's been on Coast to Coast AM quite a bit, and he's an author, filmmaker, and he's focused on like alchemy, and a lot of this esoteric research. And if the definition of esoteric is something that's designed or understood specifically for a very small group of initiated people, or knowledge that's maybe limited to a very small group of people. So he watches these movies and he looks for clues that other people may not notice. And I know most of us, when I watch a movie, I'm not looking for all the subtle things that a director may be trying to tell us with lighting or character names or things like that. But one of his theories was that the Pentagon enlisted his help to actually help produce some of the footage for the moon landing. But this ties into with Kubrick's other movies, in that the deal was they would let him make any movie, like the powers that be, right? Let him make any movie he wants, as long as he helped them with the moon landing, but he could never talk about it. And what's interesting is in some of his other movies, like The Shining, there's a lot of references that, or you could interpret things as references to the moon landing. So, Sam, do you think Stanley Kubrick was hiding messages within his movies in reference to the moon landing for some reason?
I actually, with his movies, we see like his, he had something wrong with his mind, and you just saw the general declines, like his thinking, as far as going into the dark side. And I didn't really see Space Odyssey a long time ago. It was a long time ago.
It was out. That movie was kind of out there.
Or no, it was longer than that. It was in the 80s, wasn't it? Didn't they have it in the 80s or the early 90s?
I think it might have been the 70s.
Let's say 2001.
Yeah, I think it was made in the 70s.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was really young when I saw it. So 2000. So I do think that he started off sort of with Space Odyssey, but then he ended up just taking some weird far right turn. And a part of that, and the guilt that he had knowing about these elite little groups who played their games. Thinking about that, I was like, there are some people that have these very sick games. This is not the norm. It's not the overall problem, but people found out about Jeffrey Epstein and how he hid, seeing how many people, knew what he was doing, but a lot of people didn't know what he was doing as well. I got that information, and and he's dead now too, so it's easier for me to get information.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. You're right to the topic I was going to, which was his second film, or not the second film, but the last film he did, which was Eyes Wide Shut, which was released on July 16th of 1999, which was apparently 30 years to the day after the Apollo 11 was launched. But as you say, the movie deals with a successful New York doctor and his encounter with a cult of rich elite that are involved in occult sex magic rituals and all these weird things. And, it's easy for us to entertain these ideas that, there's these rich and powerful people that do all this depraved type of behavior. And then when you hear, like you said, this exposure of the NXIVM or Nevixim sex cult in Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, then you're like, well, he might have been onto something. And that's what people theorize, is that Kubrick actually did know about this stuff, and that's why he produced Eyes Wide Shut, was to reveal that to people, that this is out there. So is that what you got?
Yeah, that was sort of the start for him, because that really affected him, knowing about that.
Okay.
To stop it. And a lot of people knew about it, and they were just like, I'm just a cog in the wheel. All those kids are runaways. There's nobody looking for them, and there's some of the top people involved with Jeffrey Epstein, so I could end up dead, or my family could end up dead. Like, people are just like, I don't want to get involved. It's like, oh, well, they're almost adults, they're choosing to be there. They like the nice shoes and this, for anybody who's known anybody who's been trapped in that kind of slavery, this is not gold, right?
Yeah.
But this is what they tell themselves, because I asked these to get themselves through. But anyhow, I think he just went down a dark path after that.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that, they even let a movie like that come out.
He didn't press the button.
Okay. Yeah, that they let a movie like that come out. And, again, you can always sell something with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman and a lot of, salacious adult content in that movie. It was sure to make money no matter what. So, whether or not people got that message. But interesting. Thanks, Sam. I wish our audio was better, but that's an interesting topic. Let's go into the questions then, and we'll go to the one from Scotty E. Scotty writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. Is there a predestiny to our lives? If there is, to what extent does this go to? Many thanks, Scotty E."
Is there a predestiny? I just off, and is that, you guys can report back and tell me if that's helping or not.
It is. I can hear you a lot better, Sam. So, so he's asking if our lives are predestined. So I think.
Is there predestined?
Yeah.
Predestiny, not really. See, that's the thing about life here on planet Earth, is it's kind of because the past, present, and the future are represented differently, because you can see it all when you're on the other side, and that's really hard for our human minds to grasp. I personally don't spend a whole lot of time on it, because I have a limited amount of time from here to there, and I get what I can from the other side as far as this kind of information, because, inquire people want to know. Like, this has 8 votes. Scotty's not the only one who's wondering about this. Okay, so predestiny. Well, it's like they know what you're going to choose. But you're the one who decides. So I guess it would be really hard to say that it's predestined. Like, no matter what you do, it's just that you do. This is the way that it works out. So it's like a chicken and egg question, really, when you talk about predestiny. People are alluding to are these like life plans that everybody says, well, you chose this. It was all part of your plan. Nah, man, you had no idea. You knew when you came here, you could have ended up to be born some orphan kid in Bangladesh, or you could be with some rich in Manhattan. like you don't know. So that's for sure. And that's what makes it, all the more dangerous, leaving a nice, cushy other side where everything is perfect, right? So, but this is the only way you can learn and grow as a light being. So, here we are all trying to figure stuff out together, and we can't read each other's minds, and we can't do a lot of the things that we can do on the other side that make it so easy for us, because we're all together on the other side. We move like a school of fish, but over here in the 3D, it's completely different. And I don't believe that there's any predestiny.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I think you've mentioned nexus points before that we'll go through, but we're making choices as we get here. Hummingbird writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I've heard that some people are able to see an individual's Akashic records. Is this something that can be done? If so, does this help someone in their current lifetime? Thanks to you both."
Yes, I do believe that someone can see it, but I will tell you, can see that can also do what I can do.
Okay.
So if they have shown you no proof of mediumistic abilities, because you have to be at a higher level than even a medium to view the Akashic records. Okay. And that's what I believe, like Edgar Casey, I believe he was a seer. And that's why he could see those records. So it is possible. Okay. But I'm uncomfortable with the number of people who spout a lot of stuff online about a lot of different things, and they have absolutely no proof of even psychic medium ability. And I refuse to believe that there's anybody out there who, they just nominate themselves this. Like, no, you prove that you have abilities to speak to people on the other side, because you have to pass through them to get to the Akashic records. And, you can't just nominate yourself and say, oh, I'm reading the Akashic. Yeah, sure you are. This is, really high level stuff. And words first, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm talking to the Romulans, and I'm the ambassador with them as well. All right. Thanks, Sam. Our next question comes from Kiwi Mark. It says, "Sam and Rudy, when I go to bed and close my eyes at night regularly, I see swirling and morphing colors. Occasionally, I see shapes from where I can see a random scene playing out. Any ideas what this is and if it's a common thing? Many thanks." And Kiwi Mark, Sam, I'll try to start off with this, and then we'll see what else you have to say. I've talked about this probably, it's been a year or two ago, Kiwi Mark, where I'm pretty sure I see the same thing when I close my eyes. It's like colors. The closest thing I have to represent it is like this here. This is an agate. And imagine if this color was like condensing or like coalescing or expanding out. And I've come to understand that I'm seeing energy. And I know that because my wife does energy work. And when she's worked on me, I've seen those colors change. I've seen them pulsate and do different things. So that's how I interpret it. And in fact, when I was at the beach a couple of weeks ago, I saw like kind of like a line of that, and the energy was just moving from like where the beach came in. So really interesting. But Sam, what else can people see if they're seeing these types of things?
This is something that is included mostly for people who have some abilities, and there could be more on the way as they level up. That's why people are here. Yeah. If you're having stuff like that happen, there could definitely be more happening, because a lot of us, it just started like to trickle up, and then it became like a little river, and now it's this pounding waterfall as we get closer to, well, and everybody's got different jobs too, right? Not everybody has the same assignment that I have, but everybody's job is it's equally important. So is also the timing of them leveling up. So I would just not get freaked out by it. Just sit back and let it happen, and also see if you get any messages, if there's things that, and you'll recognize thoughts that are not your own, and see if that also happens in conjunction, especially if you start to see faces forming, things like that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Sam. Our next question is from Jackie B. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Dolores Cannon wrote that we have at least 3 exit points in our lives. Do you believe that is true?
Oh, yeah. In fact, that there is not necessarily 3 for everybody. People have like 8. Gosh, how many times was I almost killed? I was even dragged by horse when I was 19.
Oh,
When your foot gets caught in their stirrup and they drag you on the ground and their hooves can like smash you in the head. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wondered that because life seems
scary.
it can be life is so delicate.
But yeah, when I think about that, so
yeah, and people are so like sometimes you think no one could survive that, and they survive, and other times you're like, how do they die?
And think about people who live in other parts of the exactly, and the other somewhere you live in, because some countries are just flat out dangerous to live in. So, but I do agree with Dolores Cannon that there is I know, and I got this one early on, that there is a natural death and then there's accidental death. So your natural death date could be, let's say, when you're 87 years old, whereas you have an accident when you're 58 and it ends up taking your life. But if you had lived full life, you would have made it to 87. So, you're a candidate for immediate reincarnation.
Okay.
And at that point, or if someone kills you or something like that and you didn't have a chance to finish your walk, you get those credits and you get a do-over.
All right.
I know this because I was murdered when I was around 19, when I was here for the Great Awakening. So I should actually be around in my early 70s.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Matt Slenko writes, Dear Joybringers, ahoy! Someone wise once said, no one knows enough to be pessimistic. My heart and mind dearly adhere to this view. How much do the people on the other side know? Does what they know make them more pessimistic or more optimistic than ordinary bread chewers? Thank you joyously.
Well, that's a really great question, isn't it? I was alluding to, and I said the last live stream I did with you guys, which would have been, we had a SamNet on Monday, didn't we? Yes. So I was talking about how I told the people on the other side that I can't help them, like as far as natural disasters go, or, explosions, things like that. If I can't get enough information to help, I don't want to see it. I don't want to, I want my abilities to be used to help people get out of the way. Just like I am getting out of the way of what's going on in my country. And so in that way there, it makes me optimistic because there are going to be a lot of good things happening in places that never really had a chance before. So I'm very optimistic about that. And I'm also optimistic about the fact that most of us who are involved in this space over the next couple of years, we will be able to sort of move wherever we want and be helpful to others from those positions instead of being trapped and broke like everybody else.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Our next question comes from Crypto Click. And she writes, Kim Gogan has announced that she is the guardian of planet Earth and its global assets, having taken over the role from Marduk. She is with Life Force and has completely changed the running of the world's front and back financial system. She has ratified the new contracts in the Hall of Records, and the Galactic and World Councils have acknowledged her. Her goal is to empower we the people, not the corrupt entities. What do you and those on the other side have to offer on this? And Sam, this Kim Gogan person is someone that's kind of been making the rounds on the YouTubes as someone who has pretty extraordinary claims out there as to what she knows and what she has control over. So I don't know if you get any thoughts on her.
Isn't it interesting that I had a conversation before this question came up about, people making claims, but if they're able to access and have this kind of information, they must also exhibit the abilities of a psychic medium. And they should easily, look at how much material we have. It's crazy how many, just on one subject matter alone, we have about 3 hours. Like they take snippets here and there of my blabs. So on just one subject matter alone, I have 3, and this is stuff that has come true. This is going back 2 years. So my question is, does this Kim Gogan, does she have any proof that she has any special abilities, or is she just a crazy life? And I always ask these questions, like, but I know that there are other people out there who have special gifts and abilities. I mean, God love her. She seems to have a really great attitude. She seems to be one wanting to win one but I can't, acknowledge if somebody's real or not if there's no, I always ask to see the proof. Don't have any idea who she is at all. But like I said, I'm just being suspicious with my last blab being like, have they proven themselves? Do they have abilities? And if I don't post stuff on their channel, I mean, if it's easy enough for them to post all this blah, blah, blah stuff, and tell people a really good yarn, a really good story, like stuff. And half the time, Rudy, I feel really bad because I say to people, I'm like, and you just believe everything this person is saying. Like, really, you just believe it. Like, who are they? Where did they come from? What are their credentials? Do they have any abilities? Have you checked into that? So I think that's the great thing about our group is that we can all sort of work together to find out if something is authentic or not. I don't want to be the final word on that kind of stuff.
Yep, agreed. And it's fun to listen to these topics and have an open mind, but when it comes to believing, still be skeptical and use your own discernment. So Rise and Shine writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I'm really confused about things I read online and what the mainstream media is telling us about the COVID vaccines. Even our Discord channel, I read negative things about it. Is it really safe or not? Will it alter our body's immune system? Injecting an inactive virus into the body is really the best. My 76-year-old mother wants to get a jab with the Chinese vaccine. I'm really concerned. Thanks for your guidance."
So first of all, any sort of vaccination that you take, when you're injecting anything into your body that's a foreign body, you are taking a risk. There is a very small risk no matter what. It's just you have to balance what your risk is versus the what would happen to you if you were to get this disease. Now, if I was an older person, like if I was in my 70s, I would probably go and get like the Pfizer or something like that. And it's really because if you do get it, I mean, I believe it was engineered in the lab. So it's even more dangerous than like a regular flu. It's just that it's only a bull. And we know that it attacks older people. So that's my thing is that, unfortunately, there's like in my age group, it's shingles. You guys heard me talk about that before. That's what gets us in my age group. So I'm taking care of that business. But do I want every single vax out there? Absolutely not. Because every single time you get an injection, you are taking a chance. But am I saying yay or nay to it? I'm just saying, listen, do your research. And if you are in a high-risk group, just like anything, I'm in a high-risk group for shingles. So I'm getting my vax because I don't want to end up with nerve damage or potentially death. And I have a very high percentage of nerve damage. I think it's a crazy number for getting something. And people all around me are getting it who are in their 50s. Because of course, in my age group, now I know a lot of people in my age group. So this is what I'm talking. If you happen to group that, is required to get this, I'm not saying not to, because it's not any more dangerous than nation.
All right. Raymond writes, "Hello, Sam and Rudy. Supposedly there are 12 dimensions. When rivers cross each other, there's turbulence. Does anything happen when two dimensions intersect? Thanks."
I don't know who told Raymond that there are 12 dimensions. And I'm going to tell you straight up that just because I don't know information, that doesn't mean that other people don't know information. But I'm sniffing this one and I'm like, oh, that's not passing the sniff test with me. 12 dimensions. Remember, we're talking a lot about people who make stuff up, right? So I just give Raymond a heads up because he says supposedly. So he's presenting that as an idea that somebody has tried to cross. So he's like, well, supposedly there's 12 dimensions, but I don't know. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think there is, Raymond.
Yeah.
And I don't know about this rivers crossing each other, turbulence. I think it's just more people making up stuff. Selling books, going on tour. Yeah.
It sounds plausible. And, I think back, Sam, this was, I can't remember last when we talked about it, but I had a story of a prospector who experienced something like they called skyquake, where it seemed that they had walked into and then found some ancient city. So, Raymond, to your point that, maybe it does happen where sometimes there are portals, so to speak, that open up between whether it's dimensions or places. And maybe, that's a good analogy is rivers crossing. But yeah, I've never seen one. So let's go to Hans' question. Hans says, hi, Sam and Rudy. About 12,000 years ago, there was a big flood. Some say it's the beginning of our civilization. Some people who study the old scriptures think there were 3 or 6 more advanced civilizations before who were wiped out by big events. Each time they build back cities on the ruins of those older cities, and every time some knowledge got lost. And every new era was less advanced by losing knowledge, techniques, art, etc. What do you think, and what do your guides tell us about this? Thanks and cheers, Han.
I think that that's true, that there were 3 to 6 more advanced civilizations before, and that as each one got destroyed, some of its advanced technology did not survive. And so that's why that we were pretty much just above the Stone Age from our more recent historical documents. I mean, when you look at any of the materials, I mean, I live in a very old part of the world. So I've been to places that were built like in the 1600s, as far as North America goes, right? So I've been through them and I see how rudimentary and basic, I mean, mattresses with straws stuffed in them, not advanced societies at all. And this was just, less than 500 years ago. So I completely agree that has happened. Thanks, Han.
All right.
That was a good
question. I think this one from Michael is a crypto question we'll save to tomorrow, and we'll go to Steve M's question that says, is the Eye of the Sahara the remnants of Atlantis? And how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? And Sam, that Eye of the Sahara is also known as the Reichat structure. It's like a big place where it's a big circular area where there's been some erosion and you can see like the bedrock there. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with that, but I get the feeling that Atlantis is just like off the coast of Florida or something like that. Like it would be closer to Cuba, Florida, in the Atlantic.
Okay.
Yeah, or like the, Bermuda, like down around in that part of the world, not Africa.
Okay. And I think you've said that we're eventually going to find evidence of it at some point, right?
Yes. Yeah, in our lifetime, probably very soon.
Okay. Tech Cowgirl writes, Cliff High and others say there's an industrial military complexes in the Antarctica, of which we can see some evidence on Google Earth. Are there any alien bases there or a spaceport where humans or aliens interact? Are there any aliens working on human bases? Or are there humans working on alien bases?
There's no communications between the aliens and the human race. I do agree that there are industrial and military complexes in Antarctica. So, yeah, there is some stuff going on there for sure, but there's no alien bases there.
Okay.
The aliens, they scoot in and out. They come through those portals. They're not coming from outer space. They come through those portals because they've learned how to bend time and space. It's very strange how they get here. But anyways, they're not allowed to, or they just have a general rule to not interact with any of the civilizations they run across.
Yeah, I remember.
Because these aren't the soldiers. These aren't the warring ones. These are the scientists.
Okay. I remember a couple of years ago when I think Cliff had mentioned that, and there was some firm that published information they were getting from everybody's Fitbits about their locations and routes. And you could actually go to Antarctica and you'd see these places where people are obviously jogging or walking, and there's no structure there. And you're wondering like, well, I wonder what's really going on over there. So anyway, they took that offline. Country Chris, that's a new name here. So welcome, Country Chris. Thanks for asking a question tonight. He says, hey, gang, what's your thoughts on the Mandela effect where people have different memories, like the Berenstein Bears or Berenstain, like how the spelling of that, and the word dilemma versus basically the DELIMNA versus DELIMMA, and movie quotes, song lyrics, all being different from our memories. Sam, what do you think about this Mandela effect?
Well, I think these are just common mistakes that people make, and it's just commonly made. You've seen some of those automatically pick, let's say the obvious answer, but it's the wrong answer, and the majority of people pick it. I can't think of an example right now off the top of my head, but I think you know what I'm talking about, where sometimes you might have picked something quickly and then, when you see the answer and you're like, oh no. So this is just the same type of thing, that this is just part of the human condition.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sam. Next question we'll go is from Hoddle Queen. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Throughout my life, I found myself in Victorian era homes or businesses. Do you believe in past lives? And if so, that we end up living what's most familiar and comfortable to us because of them? One of my dreams is to use crypto wealth to take over a small town that I am drawn to and house some of the kind people I've met throughout my life who deserve a helping hand. Hope it comes true. Thanks.
Okay, Total Queen, thank you for posting your question. And I do believe in past lives. And I do believe sometimes, in your past life, if you were really fantastic at playing the piano, that's a path that you may end up having in your new life. I do think that there is some ancient memories that carry through. And yeah, and I think that you have a great dream to help people who deserve it when your crypto wealth comes in. Best of luck, Total Queen. Thanks for the great question.
All right, Samuel, thanks for sticking through this tonight. I wish our audio problems, hopefully they'll be cleared up next time and you won't have any issues with Moo tomorrow, but hopefully everything sounds good for those that are listening on the replay, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you tomorrow on the weekly Meetup with Moo. Bye for now.